Hi everyone, I'm Aarti. Welcome to the People Stack, powered by Offrd.co. We all see that payslip each month, and honestly, half the time, people stare at it wondering, why so many parts? Why can't they just transfer one single amount? Today we're going to talk about salary structure in Indian SMEs and startups. Before we begin, a quick disclaimer. The views in this podcast are for general awareness only. This isn't legal or tax advice. So for any specific guidance, please check with a qualified professional. I have with me Raj from OFFRD. Welcome, Raj.
Thanks, Aarti. Absolutely. It looks complicated, but if you break it down, most companies actually follow a pretty common approach. The biggest chunk? That's usually your basic salary.
Raj, how much does basic usually make up?
So, basic is typically 40 to 50% of your total CTC or cost to company. It's kind of the foundation for everything. Provident Fund, Gratuity, your bonuses. Basically, most statutory stuff uses basic as the base.
Exactly. And then you have HRA, or House Rent Allowance. This one's interesting because if you live in a rented house, this part can help save on taxes. But the exemption isn't automatic, right?
Right. Most companies set HRA at 50% of basic if you're in a metro city. Think Bangalore, Mumbai, Delhi. In non-metros, it's usually 40%. But you only get the tax exemption if you pay actual rent and it crosses a certain threshold. Actual rent minus 10% of your basic and whether you're in a metro. People trip up on this all the time.
Yeah, the details matter. And then, dearness allowance, or DA. You hear that term a lot in government jobs. But in private companies, especially startups, DA is practically extinct.
Totally. Thing is, for most startups, DA isn't even included. It's more of a government or PSU thing. SMEs and startups should focus on HRA structure. That's what matters for their setup.
Instead, a lot of companies use what's called Special Allowance. Basically, after you allocate basic, HRA, and whatever little else there is, the rest of your CTC goes here. There's no magic behind it. It's just a balancing figure, also fully taxable.
Yeah, and you'll sometimes see tiny amounts for things like medical or conveyance, but those are becoming rare, unless you're in a really traditional company. It's the basic and HRA that do the heavy lifting in salary structure.
Okay, so let's talk about those smaller, easy-to-miss perks. Leave travel allowance, LTA, is one. If your company includes it, you can claim certain tax breaks when you travel within India, but only for 2 journeys in a 4-year block. It's tricky, and honestly, not everyone even uses it.
Yeah. And then there's children's education allowance, 100 rupees per month, per child, up to 2 kids. It's not much, but, small tax exemptions add up for some folks.
Exactly. And, early in my career, my company used to offer a performance-based bonus. I was like, wait, so this isn't fixed every month? Turns out, it completely depended on whether our whole team hit certain targets. So you'd see your payslip swing from month to month. Big difference between fixed and variable, right?
Absolutely. And for startups, especially, it's common to have performance-linked variable pay, anywhere from 5 to even 30% of your CTC. But unlike basic or HRA, you can't count on it. The amount may change year to year, or you may not get it at all if the company has a bad quarter.
Right. And sometimes founders will ask, do I need all these little allowances? My take, focus on clarity. If you're designing a salary, keep it simple. LTA and education are okay if you can manage, but don't overload with small, hard-to-use perks. Variable pay is great for incentives, but be transparent that it's not a guaranteed monthly figure.
Completely agree. Actually, people get confused all the time about why their take-home isn't matching the CTC. Most of the time, It's just because variable pay hasn't been paid yet. It's not part of the fixed salary, and that's a big distinction.
Now, let's get to the deductions. That part of your payslip where everyone groans. Provident Fund or PF is a biggie.
Yes, both employer and employee contribute 12% of the basic. It's great for forced savings, but yes, it does reduce your take home every month.
But is there not a cap companies have on what the maximum they have to contribute per month mandatorily?
Yes, there is a statutory maximum employer contribution, which is 12% of rupees 15,000, which is all to rupees 1,800 per month per employee. However, employers may voluntarily contribute on higher wages if they wish, but they are not legally required to go beyond rupees 15,000 wage ceiling.
What about ESI?
Yeah, for folks making up to rupees 21,000 a month, there's also ESI or employee state insurance. Employers pay 3.25% and employees pay 0.75%. Not everyone is eligible, but for lower salaries, it's mandatory by law.
And don't forget gratuity. You only become eligible after 5 years of service, and it's partly calculated on your last drawn basic. Most private companies just include it as a small percent in your annual CTC. Then, state-wise, you might see professional tax. Some states charge it, others don't. So that's another thing to keep an eye on.
To put all this into perspective, let's take a typical RS7 lakh CTC. Usually, 40 to 50% goes as basic. HRA is about 40 or 50% of that basic. Special allowance makes up the balancing amount. And then your small tax books, maybe a tenth to a fifth of CTC, can end up as performance linked. Out of all this, both employer and employee PF are deducted, gratuity is provisioned, and depending on your salary, ESI and professional tax might come out as well. End of the day, that's how your take-home salary gets to what it is.
So that's the typical template, right? Private sector salary structures in India today usually look like this. But the exact numbers always shift a bit based on your city, your industry. Or, let's be real, sometimes just the company's flavor.
So the next time that salary slip lands in your inbox, hopefully it'll look a little less mysterious and you'll know exactly where each rupee goes.
That's it for today's episode of The People Stack. Thanks for sticking with us. Understanding how your salary is built is the first step to taking charge of your finances.
Yep, absolutely. This stuff sounds technical, but once you get a handle on it, you really can plan better. We'll have lots more practical HR and payroll stuff coming up, so don't miss it.
Thanks for joining Raj, and thanks everyone for tuning in. See you on the next episode.
See you, Aarti. Bye, everyone.